The way forward for European societies.
We can add sort of just like even in like 2 sentences, like as a kind of.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No,
It's not. My son recently came to me after school and asked me what color I am. And it was a very interesting question. But it's an interesting question in many ways, because I'm Italian, my mom is English. But why asking it? What the meaning that a child who is 7 years old give to that question is actually very interesting. And this is actually take us back to the point of thinking about the meaning that we give to the color of the skin. People may have different colors, they may have different eye colors, the hair, etc., etc. The point is what meaning society gives to this difference. Not all difference matter. You don't want to put people, make people feel excluded by definition. Because when you say that, for example, someone who is of North African heritage cannot be real French, or cannot be a real, or a Turkish person or heritage person cannot be a real German. Because basically you are cutting out a large chunk of the population, and a growing one as well.
Tolerance is perhaps an important concept and practice today, because there are a lot of things in our European diverse societies where we may not agree with each other, but we can tolerate each other. We don't need to agree on all the things that we do in our everyday lives, in all our values, in all our practices, but for a good part of them, we can tolerate one another. Not agreeing, but tolerating somebody who has different views from you, and actually not agreeing when you are the person or the community, the group in power. So you have the power to suppress somebody, but you decide not to suppress them, you decide to tolerate them. I think in overcoming fears of diversity, of migrants, of asylum seekers, and fears that we are losing control, political leadership is very important. It's not just at the national level, not just the Prime Minister. I think leadership by mayors is very important. Leaders can make a difference in shifting the debate in one direction rather than another. An obvious example, I think, is Angela Merkel, that has not only shifted the debate in specific directions and specific moments, but also has resisted when people said, you have to change course, you have to come back to your own words. She said, no, I'm not coming back to my own words. I'm listening, I'm trying to adjust, but I'm not coming back. We cannot isolate, although of course we see Trump trying, we cannot isolate ourselves from the global economy and from these value chains. There's no way of going back. We cannot make, for instance, internet disappear.
Very soon we will see a second generation emerging from these new migration flows, and it will be interesting to see how people reconcile their identities, which are becoming more multiple, more complex, more layered. And this is why it's really important that if we think in terms of the definition of the nation, a more inclusive definition of the nation is essential.
You have to live your experiences in their own context. So instead of speaking in abstract terms, you can be very upset about, for instance, what is happening between Catalonia and Spain on both sides. But if you look at local experiences and local context, you find a better guide on how to solve an issue. Solutions sometimes are painful for both sides or one or the other side. But I think there is a need to appreciate the context. I think we can have some very interesting examples for this from Britain, but also from Bulgaria, on how they accommodate religious diversity, for instance, in schools, in codes of dressing, in ways that appreciate not a general rule, we are a Christian majority country, so Muslims should abide by our habits, but rather, where is the school? What is the history of the school, of the neighborhood, of the city? How have we done things here? How we can find ways to accommodate diversity. So I think local context is very important, and of course listening to one another and try to find the common ground, the common worries, and try to show to people that you have a common set of concerns, and maybe you can work on those.
I think it's important to really understand that your nation is not something fixed, and in a way you make it every day with your practice. You create what does it mean to be part or not of a society. So you cannot just accept, sometimes people refer to tradition or heritage as something that has always been there, is our history, our shared history, and that's what defines us today. You just need to go a little bit more deep down, and you see that that shared history is much more complicated, much more contested than we think about. There have been people that have been excluded at various points in time, that then they can come back, and they're still there, and you really don't, they've been part of your society for longer than they would assume. So keeping an open mind, having a more inclusive idea of what does it mean to be part of the nation, I think is a very important starting point for young people today.